25 is approximately 2:10. Mr. Clerk, call the roll.
Sorry, hold on. Councilwoman Julian.
Here.
Councilwoman Wilson.
Here.
Councilwoman Powell.
Here.
Councilman Leon.
Here.
Councilwoman Baskin. Vice Mayor Stevens.
Here.
Mayor Harris.
I'm present.
We have a quorum.
Please stand for the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
God our Father, we thank you for your many blessings that you bestowed upon this great city, the city that we call Miami Gardens. It is in this moment, God, we pray for your knowledge, your wisdom, and your understanding, and provide us clarity as my colleagues and I prepare to discuss business that ultimately affect your people. Continue to open up the windows of heaven and pour out your many blessings upon this great city. And God, we pray for your peace, love, and happiness to transcend throughout this entire nation. All these many blessings we ask in your Son's name I do pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh.
Thank you, brother.
Well, God.
Jesus. You gonna make sure I ain't coughing today.
Jeez. Y'all need some cough drops? They got candy on. To make sure you know.
They make sure I ain't coughing today. Thank you. Oh, yeah, it'll be for everybody.
I don't want none right now.
No, yeah.
The focus.
Yeah. They need something. Oh. All right, we're on city business.
All right, item 4.1, discussion on strategic plan, and this is sponsored by Councilwoman Katrina Wilson and the city manager.
Whom I call first, Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I will yield to Councilwoman Wilson unless you want me to go ahead and give it over. Okay, no problem. So good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. We are here today in this workshop setting to receive a presentation from Kimley Horn, who has been in the lead on our efforts with strategic planning for the city of Miami Gardens. At this time, I'd like to call on Assistant City Manager Tamara Watley to give an overview why we're here and where we're heading, and then we'll call on Steve from Kimley Horn to give the overall presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager Benson. Tamara Wadley Packer, Assistant City Manager for the City of Miami Gardens. Good afternoon again, Mayor and council members. Today we're here to get an update on what we've called the Now and Tomorrow Strategic Plan, where we were charged by the council early 2024 to take a look at where we are as an organization, meet with our stakeholders, and develop a plan that will guide the organization into the future as we continue the trajectory of growth that we're on, to come up with solid strategies that will allow us to thrive as a city and put a plan in place for others who come after us to have a vision of what is it that we want to do and where we want to go and how. So before you today, and I do want to say thank you all for your participation through the listening sessions, the one-on-one sessions, or by community meetings, for your input and the vision that you've put before us, and also what we heard from our residents. That's what you'll see in the plan that will be presented to you this afternoon by Kimley Horn and the Mosaic Group. So with that, I will turn it over to Stephen and Anne-Marie, who will introduce their teams respectively, so you have an idea of who will be speaking to you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Stansberry, work with Kimley Horn & Associates. I've got with me today Chad as well as Anne-Marie. You guys want to maybe just introduce yourselves real quick?
I'm Chad Davis, planner with Kimley Horn. Thank you.
Oh, I didn't hear your name.
Chad Davis, planner with Kimley Horn.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Anne Marie Sorrell, President and CEO of the Mosaic Group, and I also have my team member, Mia Sizax, here, who's our Director of Communications and Marketing.
I'm going to spend just a little bit of time doing a quick intro, and I want to go back in time a bit. I first encountered you all almost just over 12 months ago, and it was a wonderful opportunity to get to know you all a bit better, and I was really enthralled with the notion that you were embarking on a strategic plan. And I think we had some dialogue about what the strategic plan needed to be, what should be included in it, and how best to use it. And so we appreciate the guidance we've received from your city management and your department heads and your community at large for participating in the process. And I hope that you all recall the direction you offered to us, which is effectively to provide a new vision for the plan that would allow you to make more consistent decisions such that you are contributing incrementally towards the achievement of goals that you determine to be important. And largely, you're deriving those goals by listening. And I think we spent a lot of time in the early part of our process kind of denoting who we needed to listen to, who we needed to ask questions of, and who we needed to interface with. And I hope that you'll find favor with the outcomes of that process. And we here again appreciate the partnership. If you recall, I also suggested early on that a plan like this, especially something that's so public-facing, really needs to have some incremental wins along the way. And so we promised you that we weren't going to make you wait 12 months to see something from us. And we produced the plan in 3 different modules so that you could see our progress, be transparent about the work. And that was organized around foundation report, which was delivered to you early in the process. It's really more about facts, figures, and trends, things we're experiencing here as a community. And of course, that was followed by a series of 2 rounds of community engagement. Chad and Anne Marie are going to walk you through some of the quick outcomes from that process, followed by an identification of community themes. Those community themes aren't things that I came up with or that Kimley Horn came up with. Those are things that we heard from the community, heard from you, and heard from participants as being the most important things that we stay focused on in the coming years. And so it was really helpful for us to get the guidance from the community to help shape the plan. So we're going to spend time today sharing with you a bit of information. I don't want to overinvest in things you've already seen, obviously, in the interest of being good stewards of your time. But I do want to set the foundation for a solid understanding about how we got to where we are today. Ultimately, I'm going to come back towards the end and share with you a bit more detail about the actions and strategies that are proposed that align with your goals and aspirations, and spend a little bit of time talking about how best to use the plan. I'm going to close this introduction with just a reminder that the strategic plan doesn't have all the answers in it. It's not intended to tell you what to do, how to do business, or what to do next, but it is intended to offer a moment where we can come to agreement about what our vision as a community is, what our goals and aspirations are, and what the strategies are that we need in place to overcome the challenges of the future and meet the needs of tomorrow. In essence, the strategic plan in this instance is your policy direction. And there's a lot of things that'll have to come afterwards, right? Your expectation should and will be to update departmental plans and strategies, update systems plans, and those are the things that happen on a more regular basis. You want to monitor your success. You're going to do that through annual reporting, of course, as well. And that happens not only in the annual reporting, but also how you set priorities for your budgets annually. So my hope is that we're going to come to some understanding about how best you can leverage the work and the time and the resource that were invested in the strategic plan such that it provides you a continuity of decision-making over time. With that, I'm going to turn things over to Chad and Anne Marie.
Thank you, Stephen. As Stephen mentioned, one of the early deliverables was the foundation report, and it's just that, a foundation to build future recommendations and strategies for the city.
Yeah, I'm trying to follow along, okay, so that's where I am. It's the second page? All right, go back, all right. No, I'm serious, because I thought we were just having open remarks, and I wasn't able to locate. All right, so now, don't go any further without me, all right? I think I'm found. I was lost, but now I'm found. Okay.
Could you get the mic? Yeah,
Okay,
could you get
sure.
the mic closer? Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Sorry about that. So with the foundation report, we looked at several key factors within the city to kind of establish a framework for the city and how we move forward together. We looked at area demographics, we looked at how we travel, we also looked at how the city is doing as far as overall health goes, and a few other indicators. Now within this first slide, these are the key highlights from the foundation report that was submitted in March. The first of which is the community demographics. It's no surprise, this is a historically black community. Moving over to our health, about 20% of the residents within the city of Miami Gardens do not have access to health insurance, and that's somewhat comparable to that of Miami-Dade County as a whole. It's worth noting as well, moving on to the funding section, how well the city is doing financially, especially being so young of a city. It's remarkable the amount of debt that has been reduced since the year 2013, reducing the debt obligation, to the special obligation bonds by nearly $47 million, again, since 2013. Moving to the vibrancy, just speaking to how diverse the city of Miami Gardens is. There's over 35,000 jobs within the city. The median household income is around $61,000 per year. And we found that most residents commute outside of the city for work, often going to Fort Lauderdale or the city of Miami for work. The last statistic that we thought would be of importance here, speaking of vibrancy, is the median home value of $405,000. With that, we are going to move to the engagement section, and we'll pass it to Anne Marie.
Thank you, Chad. So at the heart of the strategic plan is hearing and listening. And of course, it was important for us to not only work with the departments, but also work with the community and also have listening sessions with each council member as well. And so, as you can see, as a part of what we were able to do with data collection, research, and analysis, we had 2 rounds of departmental meetings. We had a total of 8 community meetings. We also conducted a public survey where we received over 700 responses, and we had our listening sessions with the city council members as well. And these results were used to shape the themes that you will hear about later. And just to go through each group that we had an opportunity to meet with, the departmental meetings, these were some of the outcomes and common themes that were shared with us: an appreciation for civic pride and community engagement, communication between departments, recruitment and retention, and an appreciation for civic pride and community engagement were priorities and common themes from the various departmental directors. Within the community meetings of the 8 that we had, and we met with various stakeholders and constituents in the community, many of our council members participated and invited us to events and meetings that you were having to be able to meet the community where they were. And some of the themes that were the highlights and common themes: safety, education, and community appearance; affordable housing, including housing for seniors and veterans; educating residents about city services, as well as an emphasis on developing and growing Black-owned businesses in Miami Gardens. With individual staff meetings, some of the commonalities and themes and outcomes included building on existing collaboration, including a unified vision to guide decision-making, and departmental actions that reflect citywide goals. In addition, competitive hiring and retention, training and mentoring the next generation, having enough staff capacity and resources to meet the day-to-day needs, and having the increment of resources needed to meet unmet or emerging needs. Through our public survey, these are people who may have or may not have attended an actual meeting. We also conducted the survey at several community events, including karaoke in the gardens and several other events. And these were some of the common themes and outcomes that you see here: concerns about rapid change, but agreement that direction is positive; mixed sentiments on special event focus, the importance of affordability and economic opportunity, and continued emphasis on community and civic pride, including having a positive impact on the appearance and safety of the city. So you can see, and you have more detailed responses in your report. And lastly, here are some common themes and highlights and expectations from the council listening sessions where you all were in alignment with. Promoting a strong quality of life for our residents in Miami Gardens, ensuring financial stability for the future, creating more affordable housing, workforce housing, and hotel lodging, improving public perception, prioritizing public safety, education, and infrastructure, and using the strategic plan as a North Star that guides decisions for the city's future. Now I'll turn it back over to Stephen.
I'm going to make some references over the next couple of slides to some page numbers. So if you want to pull out your copy of the draft strategic plan, feel free to do so. Effectively, the first part of our planning process was documenting a lot of statistics, a lot of data, and we just gave a snapshot of that. I know you've had a chance to review those in greater detail. And Anne-Marie just did a great job at kind of just giving you an overview of who we spoke with and the kinds of things that we heard. And I'll share with you that this is a little bit of artwork, right? We sat down and we digested all that we saw in the data and what we heard from the community and as well as yourselves. And it helped shape a few different topic areas that just needed to be addressed in greater detail. We refer to those as community themes. And in this case, we decided kind of to work with our scope to figure out a way to be good stewards of the resources you assigned to this project, to place a greater level of investment on a set of focus themes, and then deal with community themes maybe in a bit more broad way. And so the 5 community themes that we identified are located on this particular slide. I won't read through them because we're going to go through them in a moment here. But all this section is organized in a way that I hope the community can even pick up, read, and digest so that they can understand how best to participate and hold accountable and to play a part in the change that happens over time. Essentially, we describe the community theme, we denote what objectives are aligned with that community theme, and then what actions we might want to take to help advance that community theme. And then how we get there obviously gets into some detailed examples about the things that we can do here within the city limits and at City Hall to help improve those conditions. So I'm going to quickly go over each of the themes, and then we're going to dive into the focus theme areas as well. Local governance. So effectively, this is speaking to how we operate our community, the resources, the tools that we use, the services that we provide. And I'll read a little bit of that described statement that supports it, focusing on ensuring effective and responsive government services by prioritizing customer service, enhancing online and in-person accessibility, and fostering fiscal stewardship. I mean, at the end of the day, I think what we're speaking about are really the objectives that are pointed out underneath all of this. We're looking for actions that lead to positive community experiences. And that can be anything as simple as garbage pickup to ensuring that when I call the city and I need help, there's someone there that not only answers the phone, but knows where to direct me. And so there's a lot of really wonderful things that we heard both from you as well as through our surveys, as well as folks in the departments about ways with which those things can be improved. And addressing community needs obviously is the next step after we listen, right? If we're listening, we need to have resources and procedures in place to be responsive, and then preparing us for the future. That means not just focusing on operations today, but making incremental decisions that better position us for success over time. And then reinforcing the good stewardship of community resources. I keep using the term stewardship, you'll notice. It's kind of a highlight of this particular process to understand that we only have so many days in a week, we only have so many employees, and we only have so many dollars. And so it's tough to sit in the seats that you all sit in and make those choices. And I think in large part that's emblematic of why a strategic plan can help bring about some consistency in decision-making over time. We heard a lot about community appearance, and community appearance was really tied to community pride. There wanted to be a reflection. I think a lot of you even mentioned these same sentiments to us. And with that comes this observation that we are a unique community. and we have an opportunity to showcase that through our diversity and our culture, and ensuring that the city is recognizable. When you arrive, you know you're in Miami Gardens and no place else. And then honoring the past while embracing the future. I know that sounds a little cliche, but I was enthralled by the story about how you got to where you are today. Essentially, there have been 3 levels of leadership that have occurred in recent history, one of which was the establishment of the city. The second was essentially identifying what was missing and adding those things. And now I would turn to you and say you're at the 3rd phase, which is finalizing that step, but then operating in an effective government to ensure that this has lasting value. And ensuring that visitors feel safe and welcome, I think, just comes with any expectation for community pride, and we'll have some other examples of that. General housing. I can't go anywhere in the U.S. Or Florida and not have a conversation about housing. You all stress the importance to us, and we heard it from the community. I think that some key objectives clearly align with the notion of effective housing strategies, being sure that our existing neighborhoods are well connected with community features. What do I mean by community features? It could be parks, it could be our retail, it could be other neighborhoods, so that we've got that sort of community where we feel that we are well connected and we don't have separation of places, but more a cohesive, integrated community. More housing choices. Quite frankly, there's this shift going on right now in the housing industry as well as the real estate market, and our appetites today for how we want to live and where we want to live and the format with which that takes is evolving. You all are doing some wonderful things. We'll showcase that a little bit later on, but having that choice is going to help with your strategy. And then ensuring the existing housing is in good repair. One of the things that we did was to kind of just take a look at that ratio of what's existing versus what's pipeline about to be built. And there's a lot of older homes in this community, and I've just got an affinity for old homes. I've always owned them, but they're super expensive to maintain. They're expensive to heat and cool. They require a lot of maintenance. And so I think that that's an area with which you have a history of supporting the community, and there's probably some ways to expand that good service to do even more over time. And then ensuring that housing is more affordable. And there isn't anything you can do to set prices. We all know that. But there are things that you can do to ensure that you're adding more inventory, which increases your capacity, and ensuring that the existing housing remains attractive and valuable to those who are using it and the next generation that may want to use it. Otherwise, you have to live someplace else, and that someplace else could be even more expensive. Jobs in the economy. This is a tough one, right? Because you're not in isolation. You're a part of a larger metropolitan area. And so over time, there weren't as many jobs in Miami Gardens. More jobs are coming as a direct result of the actions you all have been taking. And I think the stewardship mindset when it comes to jobs in the economy is about looking at what your current constituents are experiencing right now. And inflation's real. Housing costs, transportation costs are real. And one of the things that we can do is do some compare and contrast. And we know that in Miami Gardens, the median household income is slightly less than that of the county. And so when we think about recruitment, we're looking for good jobs that offer great benefits and that pay at least a living wage and hopefully better. And so the good decisions that you've been making along those lines are great examples. Look for more of them over time so that your community has the same opportunities you would want them to enjoy over a long period of time. Transportation obviously plays a role in how our community and the people who live here are connected to opportunities. Those can be opportunities within the city. They also can be opportunities in the region and elsewhere. And I think one of the things that's just clear in this day and age that you hear so much about is safety. Travel choice is one thing. You're reliant a little bit on some regional transit options here as the alternative to driving. There's not as much you can do there except create transit supportive environments through your future land development activities. But what we can do is focus a bit more on creating safe corridors. And those corridors don't have to be streets, right? I think a nice series of connected paths and greenways to your incredible parks and recreation facilities, connecting your senior community to other services and other places of enjoyment, and connecting your community residents with jobs and services is really important. You've got an established transportation system already, so it's really about tweaking it to be sure it's doing everything it can be doing, both to set the tone for people who are visitors, as well as ensuring that we have safe passage when we are traveling on those streets. So we've got a lot of strategies about that, and I would also point out there's lots of money right now through grants and other programs, both at the regional and the state and federal levels. So we think those are some great opportunities for you all to take advantage of those programs. This kind of generic theme of community is really meant to talk about how we interact together. And so reinforcing the importance of civic pride, engagement, building on a sense of belonging amongst residents. I've been bragging about you all. I hope your ears have been burning. I do a lot of work throughout Florida and throughout the U.S., and I can't tell a better story than the one that you all have been on. And as a part of every project, I tend to subscribe to all the social media platforms that the community I'm working in puts out, and I have been flooded with activities that take place in Miami Gardens. The things that you do to bring people together is nothing less than exceptional, and I hope that you continue doing that. Some of the objectives are pretty clear and I don't think are controversial whatsoever. You know, this notion of creating places that add lasting value is really about stating we want quality. Your community deserves quality, and the things that you're going to be making investments in, you hope will be here for several decades to come and continue to add value. And I think that the other component of this is while it's incredible to have all of the regional venues that you do, one of the things you also might want to be recognized for is being a great place to work, right? That makes this community even more attractive. Being family friendly. I think I spoke to you several months ago when we finished our foundation report that we were acknowledging the city is getting older, and that's not unusual for South Florida, but you have a unique opportunity to be that sort of shining star in the middle of the county that effectively offers a safe, effective place to raise a family. With the community facilities that you all have invested in and your emphasis on youth, I haven't been to a council meeting yet where there hasn't been youth celebrated in some way. I think it's just emblematic of where you want to go. And while it's wonderful to have the resource of your seniors, you have the capacity to add more families as well, which would be a wonderful thing to see over time. And then just showcasing the community through effective community events, which here again, you guys are already doing. Culture. I won't lie, there's a lot of communities I do work in that there's not a lot of distinction. I could lay them statistically in comparison with other places. They might compare very equally. I could drive through and do a visual preference survey and kind of compare the kinds of places that are there, and they look very much so like other places. I think one of the things that's so distinctive about Miami Gardens is just the people that are here. It may not look incredibly different than the rest of South Florida, but the people who are here have a very focused pride that comes from where they come from and a history of excellence. And that's the kind of thing you want to shine a light on as bright as you can. And so it was worth us denoting the importance of establishing clear objectives, but most importantly, taking actions to ensure that we do set expectations for how to showcase our diversity and how to showcase our responsibilities to that distinction over time through our investments incrementally and over time. The other thing I kept hearing a lot of you reference is the phrase legacy. That's not unusual to hear from community leaders. You're always thinking about your time as decision makers and representatives and being good stewards of the people that you serve. Legacy is an important component of community building. And I know that you all have profound respect for those who came before you and established this city. And I think there's ways with which you can continue to honor that legacy through the built environment and through programs. And we've identified some of those opportunities within the strategic plan, and I hope that you would take a close look at them. And I think, along with that legacy really is that reference to the word stewardship again. Being good stewards of public funds to accomplish the needs of the days and the goals of tomorrow, right? I mean, it's a very simple phrase, and yet there's nothing that speaks better to the notion of legacy for those who worked hard and sacrificed to get us to where we are today than to take care of that which they created. I know I breezed through a lot of that, but I want to get to this section here and be respectful of your time, leave ample time for additional questions that you may have. I want to point out how best to maybe think about using this plan. And sometimes planners like myself might get really wonky and talk about operationalizing the plan. I think it's important to contextualize what the strategic plan is in the framework of all the other things that you do. And I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation that this isn't the vehicle with which to tell you what to do as much as it is to establish your vision and the policy expectations. There are other things that happen, right? So the annual work plans and reports that are generated by the city's departments, this is a wonderful place with which for us to reference the strategic plan and to ask those departments to evaluate their ongoing efforts over the past 12 months in accordance with what do we accomplish that supports the goals of the strategic plan. What actions did we implement that are denoted within the strategic plan? And that's the place with which those metrics are going to be highlighted. And I know there's an appetite to see more and more metrics. I know that one of the things that we've talked with the manager about is this next step would be effectively to look at the way with which those departmental plans are put together so that they intentionally mirror the strategic plan. And so that's one way with which you do that. And I mentioned also at the beginning, there's also this notion of your annual budgeting. So hopefully, when you take on that arduous task each year, you can allow yourselves to be inspired by the good work that you sponsored through the strategic plan to inform and be supportive of the objectives that are outlined in the strategic plan. But it doesn't end there. There are other things that will happen over time. You're going to update your systems level plans. And what I mean by that is your transportation plan, your land use plan, your parks and recreation plan. All those sorts of things get updated on occasion, at least every 5 to 10 years. When we do that, we want people to pick this plan back up and to think about the ways with which we can use that particular system to advance the things that we denote as being important to the community. And those are those actionable strategies that you can then hold accountable, how we spend money, where we invest, and the expectations of what we experience afterwards. And those plans occur every 3 to 5 years and sometimes up to 10 years. But the long term really is the strategic plan. And so with any luck, you all will find favor with this collaborative co-creation of a plan and herald it as your guiding force, or the North Star, as Anne-Marie mentioned earlier, and allow yourselves to update it on occasion, right? Every 10 years is totally appropriate. It's not inappropriate to revisit it in shorter durations, so choosing. And those are the ways with which all of your plans will work in concert together towards more effective governance, which was the very first thing we mentioned at the beginning. And so when we think about that operationalizing of the strategic plan, there's some really strong key areas with which I just want to point out. And the first of which is that phrase I just mentioned, which was governance. Aligning your council agendas to reflect the key actions. And my understanding is we're already going to be working to do that. And essentially what that means is if we're going to have an agenda item, the question is how does that agenda item support the initiatives in the strategic plan? Pretty simple task, but it reinforces to the community that you all are following the strategic plan that you sponsored. The second of which is stewardship, right? Ensuring that your budget not only reflects that, but also how we make incremental decisions on what we spend money on. That's one way you can hold each other accountable. Is it in the strategic plan? How is it advancing or supporting the strategic plan? It doesn't mean we can't spend money on things that are urgent needs that maybe aren't officially denoted in any formal way within the plan. It just helps guide the incremental decision and ensures that we are being stewards of taxpayer money to do the things that they're expecting of you. And then services, performing department-specific planning to advance the plan. I know that that is the immediate next step that will be occurring, which is to work directly with departmental leadership to figure out ways to assess where are we in discord potentially with the strategic plan, where are we doing things that are in alignment, and how can we do more? So I think that's going to be a really exciting time for you all, and hopefully you'll be supportive of the things that they bring forward that are the kinds of things that can accelerate your progress towards goal achievement. Investments comes next. I think largely those are viewed as capital investments, but it also can be the kind of thing where you're thinking about how we operate. That also can be considered a form of investment. and ensuring that the kinds of things that we are putting our capital dollars and our operating budgets into are advancing those priorities. And then lastly, obviously, with any good plan, I mean, the only way that you achieve success is if you monitor it. And so the expectation would be that each department would be contributing to an annual report where you will have the opportunity to see the kinds of things that were accomplished over the past year that are in support of the strategic plan. And obviously expect that not everything will be done in the first year, right? And in fact, most communities, this is a continuing effort. It's a continuing investment, and that's the kind of thing that we have come to expect because we don't control all the things that we may encounter. And being prepared for the future is part of the strategic planning process. I think this offers you the opportunity to monitor your progress through that lens. I know I said a lot, and I wanted to be good stewards of your time. I wanted to leave open some time for you all to ask us some questions and offer some comments.
Before we start discussion, I want to say thank you to you and your team for the hard work and putting this together. And it helps a lot to be able to see it and now kind of have an idea of how we understand it and how we move forward from this point on. So thank you guys for that, and we appreciate you a great deal.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Steve and the team, I want to say thank you also. I listened to my colleague for about almost 3.5 years talk about a strategic plan. And to see her up here blushing today at this plan really makes my heart smile. So thank you for the work that you've put into this.
Our pleasure.
Yes, I'm the same. You wait me.
Well, I have questions.
Go ahead.
I have a lot of questions.
Well, then, can I make a comment before you go?
Sure.
Yes, I am blushing, and my heart is just overwhelmed, and it's emotional for me because in The Wizard of Oz, they told the girl, and Dorothy and them, they say just follow the yellow brick road. And although it had a lot of twists and turns, eventually they got home. And so I see this as our yellow brick road that's going to allow all of us to travel along. And some of us maybe along the way may not get all the way to home, but we know that the road has been charted. And I am grateful and to you, Mr. City Manager, for, just hearing me out on it, like my colleague over here says, 3 years. And 5 years, okay, but you weren't even here, so hush. But for 3 years, for really allowing us to be able to move through this process, because I do believe that we are at that place where it's time for us to pause and really assess where we are and really crystallize where we see ourselves going. And so this is not necessarily an easy project, but we don't do things because they're easy. We do things because they're necessary. And this is very, very necessary to this city moving into and solidifying itself in the place that we say every single day, in this place that we call home. And so I want to encourage my colleague over here to ask as many questions as you so desire. And if there is no other time to ask the questions, the time is now. And for us to get on course and set our speed, and I say, let's rock and let's roll. Okay.
Mayor, I have a comment.
Go ahead.
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank Kimberly Horn for your work. You all are industry experts in planning, and it shows. I've followed your work over the years, over the last couple of decades, and you are just phenomenal. I want to thank Councilwoman Katrina Wilson for ensuring that Kimberly Horn partnered with the Mosaic Group, because the Mosaic Group serves as the company that does the marketing for the city. And I love to see the synergy. Looking at this strategic plan, really, 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 the ease of use, it's easy to read, it's easy to comprehend, and you all touched on all the key things. And so I say, we've planned the work, now it's time for us to work the plan. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so, well, I echo everything that my colleagues said. This plan that you all put together is very well. All of my questions, I believe, is actually directed to administration. because you've given us the framework, and now it's time, as my colleagues mentioned, to dive in. But I echo everything that each of my colleagues said. Thank you for your time and effort of putting this plan and being ahead of time, because I did not believe we had a year, and you ensured me that we'll get it done beforehand, and I appreciate that. So thank you all so very much. I did want to ask a question to Anne Marie. I think it was when you were presenting. Can you emphasize or give me clarity to civic pride, that term that you said that the residents are asking more about, or is that the exact term? Let me make sure. Did I say that right?
Is it? Yeah, civic pride.
Yes, civic pride. Can you give me details about?
Well, just being more educated around government, your services, and their engagement is one of those key areas. I think that we saw a really good showing at every single community meeting we had. So there's definitely civic engagement, and so just having more of that and making sure that they're continuously informed, communicated with, and that they're continuously engaged in the government process, the civic process.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, guys.
You had more questions?
Yeah, I have, but I don't know if they're the ones to answer my questions.
So,
I have a question, and I know this was an overview.
No, go ahead.
I know this was an overview, but I saw that one of the at number one was security and safety. In your meetings, did the people break down what they meant by security and safety, or the major concerns? And I saw you tie that in with transportation, and in particular, the deep dive into that.
Sure.
I know.
I'm going to take a stab at it. If I miss anything, please feel free. So security and safety is kind of an overarching terminology. A lot of people don't make a distinction between like home safety or personal safety or just safety from a transportation perspective. And yet we know there's a lot of granularity in that spectrum. I think what we were hearing a lot of, if you kind of read between the lines, is this notion of wanting to live in a community when I arrive, I know that I feel safe walking, driving, participating in community events, and feel safe with leaving a grandparent alone or having children go to a park. And so, those are the kinds of things that are universal expectations for any place. The question is like, what do we do? Like, what do we need to do? What are the things we are doing, and what can we do more of? And I don't know that we necessarily heard anything that was a negative reflection about we don't feel safe, but it's an expectation that they're setting, right? So everything that we do should be done through the lens of, are we offering appropriate safety measures, and are there things from a transportation perspective that we can do? I'll give you a really quick example, because safety is such a big issue right now in the transportation world. There's a lot of data that's being collected about how many crashes occur on a given street, and then they get super granular about the type of crashes. There's not always a sharing of data, and this is a really simple thing that we in positions of running communities can be doing, is when we collect that information, we share it with law enforcement. Law enforcement is often just canvassing a community, trying to be in the right place at the right time. Here's an opportunity for us to share, here's where our greatest problems exist. They likely already know it, to be honest. They're really good at what they do, but when we share the data, we know we're being intentional about it. And it also ensures then that we're being equitable with our enforcement. Well, why are we patrolling a particular corridor so frequently? You can defend that by saying, because the data says this is where the greatest needs exist. That's probably the best example I could offer you. Sure.
So I'll offer some more granular, specific input that we received, and it was a plethora of different topics around safety. So from lighting of some streets, having speed bumps or traffic calming components into some neighborhoods was another safety concern that was raised. Having more police and hiring more police was another specific concerns. So there was several different types of safety suggestions that came up from the community discussions, but traffic calming, more police, and lighting and things like that were some of the general concerns that were more specific.
Thank you. I think the presentation was phenomenal. I know the work was intense, but phenomenal is definitely the word I would use. I participated in a couple as a resident before I became a councilwoman, and I must congratulate the way that the data was collected was phenomenal. The engagement with the residents and with the teams that you part was phenomenal. And I'm very grateful for the information that you presented us, and I'm sure we as a council will utilize it to go forward. Thank you so much.
I'm going to offer just a quick reaction to that. I want to thank you all because oftentimes we might know what thoughtful questions to ask, but we don't have a local partner. And so I showed up here, and while Chad and I do a lot of this work, you introduced us to Anne Marie and the Mosaic Group. And so it was a little bit of a forced marriage, right? We weren't quite sure. We didn't know each other. We broke bread together, and we got to know each other really well. And her strengths and talents complement our thoughtfulness. And I think through that partnership, we really found a way to work collaboratively and work with your community to get the information that we wanted. I'm glad to hear it was well received, especially as a participant. That means a lot. Thank you for that.
Same here. My sentiments, as Councilwoman Powell mentioned as well, the community meetings were very warm, very welcoming. Even myself, like, you felt okay to ask a dumb question. And you all answered questions well. You were very receptive to the comments and suggestions that were given. And I want to commend Councilwoman Katrina Wilson on this, because in the line of work that I do, we can't work without a strategic plan. So although as a city we have access to statistics and data and results from surveys, it's good to have all of the information all in one, the graphics, how the information is presented. And I feel like it's easier now to work the plan. And I like the comment or suggestion that you mentioned, is that when we have agenda items, we can ask ourselves, are we in alignment to our strategic plan? So thank you for that. I'm so excited. This is like my new Bible. I thought the budget was, but this is it. I mean, this is it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Mayor. Can I get to my question?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You the one passed it on to somebody else.
Because Dr. Powell dived in, and then everybody just diving in. I said, well, wait a minute now. All right. Thank you all so much, and kudos to Tamara. Good job, Tamara. What is the proposed timeline for the implementation of the key initiative? Should we accept this plan? And I guess that would be our manager.
It's going to be immediately, right? Go ahead, Mr. Manager.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Vice Mayor, members, we have not sat down to prepare a timeline until we have the final draft. But what I do anticipate is we will probably bring back something prior to the budgetary process, and then incorporate that going forward within the budgetary process.
So it would be something that
I would say probably time by June 1st.
Right. So it would be something you would recommend to fall in line with the budget of 2025-2026.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
However, can I say this? I would like to begin our recommendations for certain items on the agenda sooner than that. So for instance, if there's an item on the agenda that we can tag a piece of information from the strategic plan and add it into that agenda item, I'd like to do that sooner than the budgetary process as to how we move forward with that.
Okay. I think my only concern is I want us to make sure we pay close attention to that agenda item or before we begin to reference reference this plan because the budget for this year has already been set. So I don't want us to go back at things that we've already outlined in the budget and start essentially retroacting to what was already placed. Am I making sense in that?
No,
So that's the only thing that I want us to be careful about, because I know, for an example, each council member has already outlined what is priorities for them in our individual offices and things of that nature for this budget year. Go ahead.
I'm making reference to items that I bring forward as the manager.
Okay.
I understand, I won't do it for your items because that pretty much are tied to budgetary things. But from an operational standpoint, I would probably move a little faster through that process than with the agenda process.
Okay, no, that makes sense.
Point of clarification, if I may have it.
Go ahead.
If I'm understanding, the implementation of the recommendations here will be able to be moved forward faster as it relates to operations prior to those items related to the council initiatives, which will then be earmarked for the next budget.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Correct. Now, my suggestion, Mr. Manager, when you begin to implement what once we get the final plan, when you begin to implement this plan within the different departments in our city, that we're updated along the process, so that it helps, at least for myself, it better helps me govern when we're preparing the budget and we're looking to approve the proposed budget that you create for us around budget time.
That's not a problem.
Thank you. Yeah, no,
Finish?
I'm not.
Go ahead.
No, but it's to crystallize what's going on here. It's related to what he's talking about. Okay? And the question I have is,
Go ahead.
will that be something in terms of, for the charter officers, that anything that they would do, that they will follow the same pattern of, or is that just a city manager thing?
That's a good question. Madam Attorney, Mr. Clerk? That's good.
I don't really do items like that. The items I prepare at your request, so. But yes, I would assume that they would be in line with the strategic plan, whatever's presented to me to prepare.
Same like the city manager and the city attorney, city council set the policies, and it's the goal of the city clerk's office to operate within those policies set by the council.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Where at in this plan do we address ordinances that's been created from when the city was incorporated to date that we may need to identify improvement,
Or change.
refreshing, or changing? How do we go about with that?
I think you're going to go about it the same way as far as bringing those items to council for two readings. I think the difference will be is if there's additional new information that we are bringing to change ordinances, that will tag along with the strategic plan. Let me just say this, and I think the city attorney and the city clerk may be at a disadvantage than the city manager. And that's probably because I've been able to read this plan over and over and over again. So some of the changes that I've already made were in results of what had already read through the plan and anticipating what we may need to do as an organization moving forward. So I think, from my perspective, I think the operational issues are different than what may be with the city attorney and what may be with the city clerk. And so I'm making those changes. I've already talked with Vernita, who does our agenda items, to make sure that we start identifying those goals and objectives in the strat plan once approved, so that we can begin putting those items toward operational items and those items coming forward to council. But my goal is, listen, I'm ready to go. And that's not to say they're not, but I'm ready to go because I've been able to read and go through and put strategies in place ready to operate based on the strat plan being adopted. And then I can tweak going forward. I can do something different, but I'm ready. I'm ready, and that's not to their to say they're not, because a lot of times when I'm ready and I start creating items, as I said yesterday, I'm going to lean on the city attorney anyway because I got to make sure what I'm doing is legally going through the process. I have to lean on the clerk to put those items on the agenda. So a lot of it is going to be on the operational side. It's going to be on the administration, and we're okay with that. But I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go.
I think my concern, Mr. Manager, as it relates to the other charter officers' offices, is that there are ways that I've identified that innovation can take place. And I want to make sure that the innovation and all of the modernized things that the clerk's office as well as the attorney's office that they're doing, that they have an opportunity to be included in this overall plan as well. So that's what I'm a little skeptical about moving forward with the completion of the plan without the charter office, without the attorney and the clerk's office being included in the plan. Because, for an example, there's additional services later down the line that we can implement in the clerk's office that by the statutes, clerks of cities or municipalities can be able to actually do. And at a city of our magnitude, that's something that we should actually be looking into to provide additional resources and services to the residents of Miami Gardens. So if we put this agenda forward and we put timelines this plan in place and we put timelines in place, then we're ultimately only addressing the manager's side and not necessarily what the clerk or the attorney's office can, how they can contribute to the overall plan to improve the quality of what we produce as a municipality. Am I making sense in that area?
But aren't you guys included in that?
But then I'm confused.
Yeah, because I'm asking now. That's my question too.
Because I didn't understand.
Well, I don't know that they met with Mario, did not, but my function is just different than his. Yeah. I'm the city attorney. I make sure I do the litigation, the law, the ordinances, and everything. I very rarely sponsor items on the agenda. So that's why I'm saying I fall in line with what you all are bringing to me to review and look at, and what the manager brings and what the clerks bring. I'm not the chief administrator for the city.
Yeah. But when it comes to
my
you,
department,
Sonia?
no, is not included in this plan, if that's the question.
Well, hold on. This is my question, so let me provide clarity.
Yes.
To Cameron being confused. The question, it goes, the attorney's office is not included in this plan. The clerk's office is not included in this plan. There are services that the clerk's office can provide to the residents to improve the quality of life in the city that is not included, that we're not providing now. So my question is, how can we create a holistic plan that would include all three of the charter officers that our charter indicates? That's what I'm asking.
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, hold on.
Yeah, I did have my hand up.
Okay, we're going to come back.
Okay,
Hold on.
sir.
But you wanted to answer that, Cam?
You can't
Okay.
answer that. No.
Cam, go ahead, and then I'm going to come back to you. I'll come back to you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So my thought process, and I want to make sure I'm understanding this right, if the city attorney and the city clerk has something that they want to add as far as technology-wise and increasing or changing something, similar to what we just did when you passed the reso to the way we change how we were advertising, right? So as those things come along, you guys can bring an item to move it forward, correct? So I think that's how they would do that.
Okay, here's the way it goes. There are sweeping changes that stand in this report here. I mean, you know what I'm trying to say, the strategic plan, sweeping. And on every level, whether it's the attorney's office, the city manager's office, or the clerk's office, when we make changes, I'm going to use this, if we make changes in our technology, which is to upgrade it, the clerk can apply for that, you know, to use that. He's going to upgrade his systems as a part of our strategic plan. It's going to be left up to us. That's what I'm understanding. I don't, and I think that what the city manager is saying, because he is in charge of the day-to-day operations, more often than not, he wants to kind of begin transitioning into that process.
I don't. That's not my question. That's
Oh,
not
okay,
my.
maybe
That's
I
not my.
misunderstood
That's not
you.
my question, nor is that my concern. I'm excited that the city manager is excited about moving forward with the plan that's being proposed here. Let me give an example. Beforehand, the city of Miami Gardens was a passport office. So the clerk's office was able to provide. You can go to the clerk's office and apply for passports versus having to go elsewhere outside of the city. Now, I know there's some things that happen, but that's an example, right? So I'm speaking of how can we identify additional services that the clerk's office, not more so, and I understand the attorney's office is a little bit different, but from the clerk's side standpoint, there are extra services that they can provide. Am I correct, Mario?
There are definitely services that we can look into. And just to be clear from my perspective as a city clerk, a lot of times with the city manager and also with the city attorney, specifically with the manager, when it comes around budgetary time and also with the numerous of departments that we work with, if there is any type of initiative or policy change that they want to implement and somehow affects the clerk, we do collaborate with it. So I say that to say, if the manager is making some changes from an operational standpoint with how things are going to be done in line with the strategic plan, any portion of that comes with the clerk's office, we tend to adapt to it. Because our goal is to work with my fellow charter officers, but also make sure that we effectively and efficiently do all the policy changes that the council has. So, for example, they talked about the strategic plan and the agenda, and being able to highlight those agenda items. As the city manager says, they have future items coming in before the budget that they can start to implement now that in lines with this draft plan that they want to show to council. So in talking with the manager's office and talking to Tamara, we talked about how we can change our agenda process to start streamlining this once the council approves the strategic plan. So my office is very adaptive to what needs to be done. Also, too, if the council goes to increase innovation, my office can go ahead and move forward with increasing innovation.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mr. Clerk. Yeah, you know, I'm gonna move on from this question. But I get what you're saying. It's because they operate as independent offices. So if Mario, right, they operate as independent offices. So every time, if you listen to the conversation of the responses, it's always, if the manager does something, then we can fall in. That's what this city clerk and city attorney would do. But let's just say worst case scenario, if they decide to leave and they're not here no more, the new city clerk needs to know that this city clerk has already had an innovative plan in place, and this is what the direction in which the city is heading. So that's the only reason why I wanted to make sure that all three offices was properly represented in the plan so that you all can function. But if that's how you all want to move, there's no problem with me if you want to move with the manager and how he moves. I want to continue. They
move in our direction.
Correct.
Yeah, they move in our direction.
Right, but operation-wise, they do move at our direction. But operation-wise, Cam don't have to come back to us on how he make changes within his area as an operational standpoint.
Correct, but if we have questions and concerns.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
But okay. Yeah, that was not what I was.
Yeah, but I think that your questions are fair, and here's what Katrina hears. Katrina hears that the moment that the manager begins to, on whatever scale, he begins to implement these changes into the way his office functions, it's going to be a ripple effect. The other two offices are going to be affected, and we'll have to make however small or large adjustments in that process. But the cool thing about it is...
Hold on, once in that same thought. But they don't have to, because they operate as independent offices. So if Cam implements something on his side, Sonia and Mario don't have to do that.
Okay,
So that's what I wanted to make sure the plan addressed everyone's voice and that they're able to move in all.
Oh, wait a minute, hold up now.
Yeah.
Maybe I done got lost. I need something from the attorney to help me.
Yeah, yeah.
If this council, hold up, if this council adopts this strategic plan, everybody falls in line. Now, what we're saying is that the city manager is going to begin a soft rollout of his stuff now, and the office of the clerk and the city attorney will begin to move in line with whatever it is that he needs to do. And then next year will be a full-out rollout with the budget. Now, it may be smaller, it may be larger, based on what they can accommodate. But there's going to be a time when this joker here going to be full swinging. And so I think that what the city manager is doing is allowing us to work through a process, to me, that soft rolls it. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Because everybody, I'm right, like Robert. Let me
If I may,
No, Mr. Mayor, I think there's some. Let me provide clarity. I don't answer to Cameron Benson. I want to make this clear. I didn't say that I answered to him. That was taken out of context. What I say, I'm always innovative.
Yeah.
And I'm going to follow the plan. Let that be clear. The city attorney's office will follow whatever strategic plan is adopted by the council.
Okay.
What I was suggesting is that we don't generally bring items on our own unless I know the law has changed and we have to be in compliance with state statute. I don't care what the plan says. We're going to do that because we're going to be in compliance. What I was saying is most of the day-to-day things are in his orbit. I don't control his staff. I don't hire, fire. I don't do any of that, so I don't control that. He works with me. You know, he comes and asks me questions, and we work together, and same thing with the clerk. But I'm even different from the clerk. I'm the lawyer. But yes, I don't want it to be misinterpreted that I said I got to do what Cameron says do, or that I'm not going to follow the plan, because that's not what she said. I think
we on the same page.
We got it.
Okay.
And I think we got to remember that this plan is a working document.
Right. Always.
So we can
Living.
continue to add to this plan as we
for sure. I just
go down
wanted
the
to,
road.
my initial question was just to make sure that all three areas was included. That's it.
Now, can I follow up that? Because I understood your question.
Okay, thank you.
And no, the plan does not address the city
Thank
attorney's
you.
office,
That's all
how
I'm
we
saying.
function or what we do. And no, the plan does not address the clerk's office, how we function or what we do. No, we were not involved in the departmental meetings where they went with the departments, because we're not a department. I'm an office. He's an office. We didn't have that kind of interaction. So that was I understood your
That was
question.
my initial
And that's
question.
the answer.
Okay.
So
But
I'm
you,
Mr.
but
Mayor.
you guys are
Now I'm
following
confused.
the strategic plan and following when legislation is passed down to include it in the, or based on what the
Absolutely,
strategic
Mr.
plan
Mayor.
is going to say.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
Mayor, I have two comments.
Yeah.
One, as it relates to this conversation that we're having here, and then a question for Kimberly Horn. And so, you know, the city manager is essentially the chief executive officer of City Hall. Many of the employees fall under him. He does the hiring, he does the firing, right? We have our chief legal office, we have our chief legal person, which is our city attorney, and we have our city clerk, right, our records custodian. But this plan cannot roll without the other two falling in line. So although it's not blatantly mentioned in the strategic plan, the one can't function without the other two. So there is no two departments are left behind, because we roll something out, we've got to get a legal opinion from our chief legal person. We've got to go through the clerk to make sure that this is aligned with ordinances, state statutes, et cetera. So the plan is in line with everybody and with all the departments. Right, because I just don't want there to be any confusion. No one is left out of this plan.
I don't think we've come to clarity on that.
Okay,
There's no
good.
confusion. They've already said that they're part of this plan, and
They are.
they're going to adapt the plan according. And so I think we good right now.
We good?
Yeah, we good.
Okay, so
Any
now
questions?
to Kimberly Horn.
Yeah.
I'm not finished.
You still got questions?
I've only asked one question.
That was
And
confusing.
everybody chimed into the
Let's
question.
let Robert finish
Go
his
ahead.
question.
Go ahead,
you.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Thank God for our phenomenal clerk office that provided refreshments prior to the meeting. I want to make sure that when we Mr. Manager, begin to implement the overall plan, because a mass majority of the city is under your direction. that we're including, that we break it down to actions, that's when you're updating us, to break them down to the overall changes within the different areas and the projections as it relates to moving forward. For an example, human resources. How do we address creating a plan that would include more of making it more Miami Gardens centric when you're talking about residents and creating a process for hiring? What does that hiring process look like? How do we recruit individuals in and outside of the city to come back to the city and Miami Gardens and work, creating opportunities? So when we're beginning to implement this plan, I personally would love to see what the overall goal or the overall plan for each different area looks like. So if we can essentially be included along the updates, referencing back to what we're seeing here in our overall strategic plan. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's not a problem. In fact, we already are starting to work on some of the things you just mentioned.
Okay.
I'm done.
You finished now?
I got to, okay, and then have to, no, go ahead.
And so my question is geared towards Kimberly Horn, and this was just going back to the phenomenal strategic plan that you all have compiled for us.
Thank you.
And I should have asked this question earlier prior to getting to here, but we're going to rewind a little bit. Under the transportation key actions, as part of evaluating our progress now and to see where we are 10 years from now, I know that we don't have a walkability score in the strategic plan, but is it possible that we can find out what our walkability score is right now, so that way as our city continues to go vertical with the 35 acres that are coming and the hotels and everything else, we can see where we are today and where we will be in the future. I think that's very important, especially as it relates to increasing our public safety and pedestrian safety.
Answer quick, it's yes.
Okay.
You absolutely can. In fact, there's walkscore.com, and there's a variety of other sources that do very similar analytics, so you don't have to pay someone to do it, which is great. And the variables with which they use to evaluate walk score may skew slightly depending on what their interest in it is. Sometimes it's real estate, sometimes it's just simply about accessibility to certain features, and some of it is about experience. So be careful about that. But you have staff that by all means is very knowledgeable about these things, and they can report back to you about the kinds of changes that can be made that will help improve the walkability. Which, in effect, is a way of connecting people with opportunities. Yes.
Okay. So would we get that from you? Would we get that from the manager? Would the manager direct someone from his staff? I'm just curious.
Yeah. I mean,
on the city's walkability score.
Sure. I mean, we put some anecdotal, like high-level data in. I know it's on page 13. Thank you, Chad. Page 13. And so we've got things like access to transit that are documented. It looks like this page right here, as well as your bike mobility network, which is fairly limited right now. It's a place with which to invest. And then the walk score that is being communicated here is based on the EPAs. That's the reason I was trying to denote there are a variety of walk scores out there. And so if you have interest in investigating some other walk scores, you can do that, and you don't need a consultant to do that. Happy to do it, but if you want to save some money, staff can bring you kind of a variety, spectrum of walkability, but it is in the plan.
You passed the test.
Thank you.
May I? Oh, go ahead. In looking through, I saw the health score, and I was really concerned, and this is just my observation. I saw the health score, and it was alarming to me that the male lifespan is at 74 in the gardens, and yeah. And when you look at the female lifespan, which was I think 82 at that time, and so you're seeing over a 10-year difference in lifespan here in the gardens. And if you don't know yet, healthy gardens is my motto. But what I did not see was, as you scored out the benchmarks of obesity and cardiovascular disease, you went to national scores, and I don't know if you had the capacity or ability to have those scores for the gardens itself, so that our health initiatives one that I strongly feel about, we can really focus in on. I see the nationals, but I just didn't see any actual garden scores.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's about accessibility to data. If it existed off the shelf, we would have included it, but it doesn't. A lot of times that data is scored at and aggregated at the county level, which is about as granular as you can get. And for HIPAA reasons, they tend to try to respect privacy on those notions. But your emphasis in that area is one that caught our attention as well. Those are not trends that you want to carry into the future. And yet you don't have infinite influence over personal choices and decisions and behaviors. You can't tell someone what they must eat or that you must exercise. And there's obviously some genetic things that obviously put some populations in greater risk. One of the reasons we showcase that, as well as the access to health care, is because that's something where if you use this plan in the way that we've described, it's less about a replacement for your capital improvement plan. It's less about a replacement for your UDO. It's more about drawing attention to the things that are going to be important to keep your eye on over time. You don't want that number to worsen. What can we do as a community? Maybe some of the time and resources that we spend doing community events is focused more on health in response to that, as opposed to some other thing. I think the one caution I would offer to you is that there's only so much capacity that you have to offer. That's the reason we're showcasing some of these things. And so I don't want you to leave here thinking, oh, let's just add more health stuff. Your job is the hard job. Your job is the one that's about trade-offs. I need to find something that maybe is less effective at moving the needle on the community indicators that matter most to us, and let's let that sit over here for a while so that we can elevate the importance of something else. You here again only have so many dollars, so many days in the week, and so many staff. I think one of our bigger concerns is that you've got to find a way to be good stewards of all those resources. Yeah. And I would challenge all of you to think about it in those terms. I'm getting pretty direct here, I apologize, but being efficient and effective, right? So avoid duplication. Every time we duplicate something is a dollar we can't spend someplace else. And ensuring that when we do have an opportunity to maybe enjoy a windfall in some way, be that from some external funding source, that we're aligning it specifically with what the community told us was most important to them. I think that gives you a lot of credibility, right, as their representatives to say, look, we are being good stewards of the time and the resources that we've got. And I was serious about also this notion of Miami Gardens being a great place to work. I will tell you, you've got great leadership here. I work with a lot of communities. It would be great for people to recognize that this is both a wonderful city to live in, but also a great place to invest, open a business, consider working at the city, provide excellent customer service, and showcasing that opportunity just gets you a little bit closer.
Mm-hmm. You know, I guess a question for me, just like you say, it's not only a good place to work, but to invest in the whole 9 yards. Now, if I ask myself, where do we go from here? Right? The question is, what are our priorities based on what we've learned? You know, like where do we set the priorities? And even as we as a council, because it looks like we probably are going to have to look at what we're doing, right? And how our activities are going to shift in terms of what our focus might be. But also, how do our activities shift in terms of how our city is operating? You know, one of the things I say all of the time, I say, you know, Miami Gardens is South Florida's newest international destination. And as a result of that, we have so many different people coming in here at different times and for different reasons. And it impacts a lot of parts of our city that maybe we're not even aware of. And whether it's our 911 operations, right? Whether it's the way, like you're saying, somebody is out there at 7 o'clock a.m. to 7 o'clock p.m. when they need to get their permits done. And do we have the staff, you know, scheduled for that? Like, do we have enough officers to meet the new international demand? And how does that inform how we allocate our money? When and how do we begin that process of discussion now that we have a plan that's in front of us to help us to guide our decision-making, set our priorities, and then put in those, follow what the manager's leadership is as he begins to code out what in that budget is being allocated according to this plan. Because all too often, every single year when we get to this budget, we're looking at the bottom line, but we are really not looking at the line items, which is extremely important to demonstrate our commitment to what it is that we say is important to us. And I think that our department heads, from this dais all the way down, needs to understand when you see a certain letter, that signifies that we all are bought into this, and that we all have had to really look at the scale and weigh ourselves and our actions. And so I think that this crystallizes us. But what my point is that how do we begin to look at it? And I use you all the time. Sorry, Councilman Leon. Councilman Leon will come up here, he says, I've been talking about the strategic plan for 3 years, but he's been talking about 911 operators.
5 years.
What's that? 5 years. That's how long he's been talking about it. But I can't tell you that I can look at the budget and see whether or not we ordered any, but whether or not we hired any. I can't look at the budget and be able to say, hey, listen, we created 4 new positions there. And be able to say that to the residents that here it is. This was the answer. And if we got them, then tell me where they are. Tell me how they're doing. Tell me what because we can solve problems once we begin to go to a place for that. So what would be our next steps to be able to?
No, I appreciate both the passion and the specificity, right? There's a couple things that, just from where it's easy for me to comment from where I'm sitting, right? I don't have to sit with you and do the work every day. But if it were me, if I were the manager, for example, Cameron, I hope I'm saying what you might say, but I would want, first and foremost, I would want every department leader, whether that's a director level or all the way down, to read the plan. I think that request comes from you. I know that sounds simple, but being aware, right? Awareness creates the opportunity for accountability. So I would want them to read the plan. The next step I would want each department to take on is to do their own diagnostic. Evaluate the plan as you're reading through it and think about the things that you're responsible for. What are the things that intersect with the items that are denoted in here as being important? Highlight them. And then challenge yourself when you get to those actions and strategies. How many of those things are already things that we are responsible for doing? And what would it take to do more? Because you can't make a decision about what to fund if you don't know what you need to be effective, right? And that's when you got to trust that you've hired good people to do good work on behalf of the city. And so I would hope that these annual reports become actually more important than even the budget, right? Like we might learn more from the annual report about what we need and what we've accomplished before we entertain the notion about what we're going to spend money on next. And those are things that are going to take time. They're not going to get done in the next 6 weeks. They're not going to get done even in the next 6 months. But I would challenge that over time, you incrementally are going to be generating these diagnostics that allow you to understand what it is that we can be doing more within the confines of the existing organization. There's another thing I would do as well, which is, I know you spend a lot of money in a lot of variety of ways. Some of it's not just like having someone to answer the phone or pick up garbage or provide law enforcement services. There's a lot of special events that occur here on a regular basis. There's a lot of thematic things that you spend time and energy on. That whole accountability and transparency notion, if we're really serious about moving the needle and that stewardship, like I can't say that word enough, you want to monitor the progress. How effective was something? And it's one thing, I know that I'm a pretty empathetic guy. I want to know that I'm doing something when I care about something. But I also don't want to be wasteful, and I also want to be sure that I don't repeat a mistake. And so if we spend money on something, there should be an expectation about what we get in return for it. If we don't see the return, we probably shouldn't spend the money on it next year. And what that allows us to do is to try something new. It doesn't mean we're not going to support that anymore. It means we're going to find something new. And when we land on the thing that has a big impact, that moves the needle the most, we're going to fund that one in a robust way because we know it's making a difference.
Mr. Mayor,
I totally agree.
I do too.
real quick, I think to Councilwoman Wilson's question on, we need to, as a council, come up with our priorities.
Yes.
And take a look
As we
at,
come up with our priorities, whether in a month or so, we all meet with the manager, and we give him a list of our priorities, and then we collectively work on those and decide which ones in the roadmap that we're going to chip off first.
I agree.
I agree.
But I think using this as a guide,
Yeah.
meeting with the manager, and so if your priority is public works and police, and you meet with the manager and his team, and he starts to take your information on these are your priorities, then we just go down the line, and then the manager presents all of that to us as a council, and then we vote and decide which one we're going to start at first.
Yeah. But may I also add to that, Councilman? I think that it would also be prudent for this council to have a workshop over our own special events.
No.
Yeah, what Trina was. See, Trina, yeah, Katrina, here's what I'm saying. I'm saying if we're gonna look at the budget, let's look at it.
Well, not necessarily the budget, the
No.
strategic plan.
The strategic plan and our priorities are almost synonymous terms. And so what I'm saying is that we've got to look at it all. We got to look at it all as a separate ingredient and then as a holistic meal. Because I don't think that one is absent of the other. It's a difficult conversation for us to have, but we've got to begin to have it. We've got to begin to have it in terms of what it looks like in terms of personnel. We've got to begin to have it in terms of whether or not it is effective. We've got to have it in terms of not whether we need to do all of them. We've got to have that kind of professional dialogue about our items as we are moving into another phase of our operation. And I think that our individual conversations, when we meet with the manager about what our priorities are to inform what collectively we agree we should either modify or look at. That's what I'm saying.
Right. If I may,
I agree.
Just to put together what the two of you just said, it's so important that, remember I said this plan hopefully is durable enough to last you 10 years. You're not going to do everything in it in year one. And so to both your points, this is a great thing. There's nothing in here that's controversial, by the way. Everything in here is the kind of thing almost anyone you could ask in this community would say, yes, I'm for that, because it's all about community building. But what you can do is in council retreat, right? And I'm sure annually you guys get together and think about, what is it that we need to accomplish this year? This provides a framework with which to select from. What are we going to take down this year? Because we can't do it all. And so that's exactly and precisely what you're describing. If this is the 10-year plan, the council retreat that helps establish your annual priorities, right, is that thing that you would do each year to be selective about this. And then what effectuates that change is the direction that you give to the departments and the other things that you adopt, like your CIP and your operating budget every year. And I hope that offers a little bit of clarity. I love what I'm hearing, though.
Any other question, guys? So we heard council retreat. I think that's something we talked about yesterday. So we may need to do that, have a council retreat / workshop on all of our events and whatever legislation we bring in before the council. What you don't want to workshop? The council retreat.
Thank you. You need a motion?
No, we don't need a motion on that.
There's no action that can be taken.
No action on
I'm
that.
talking about to start the next presentation.
Oh, we got another
Wait,
presentation?
now how you, wait a minute, now how you gonna motion up the meeting?
So, no, I'm asking, do we have any other questions based on, for the strategic plan?
I don't.
No, I'm good.
I'm very
So we
clear
good.
on how we were moving, and I'm very satisfied at the moment. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pastor.
What you about to say?
No, y'all go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we done on this. We done.
I do want to reiterate, if there are no other comments, I don't care what, go ahead. I really do want to reiterate that I think that our team on the city side, Tamara especially, and the city manager's office, you guys did a bang-up job in coordinating the effort to be able to crystallize how we're going. And Kimberly Horn, your team is thebomb.com. You far exceeded what I thought you were going to do, and I thought you were going to do the hookah, but you really, you really hit the ball out of the park, and you spoke a language that I could very much so understand. It wasn't well over my head, and it makes me feel like this is a truly doable plan that can be articulated to a kindergartner. So the challenge for us is the work, And we have a good team to be able to get that done. I'm confident. And so I know, it may take a cherry switch, but I'm sure that we'll be able to get the majority of what it is that we are. But I am excited, and my heart is warmed. And I think that we're going to continue the good work.
Tamara, Mr. Manager, everyone who had anything to do with this strategic plan, thank you so much for putting it together. Great job. And if there's no more questions, this meeting is adjourned.
No, Mr. Mayor.
Huh?
No, we have one more item, Mr. Mayor.
On the strategic plan?
On the workshop. You almost adjourned this meeting.
Oh, but I'm trying to close out this strategic plan.
No, we're still in the meeting.
All right, go ahead.
So we have item 4.2, discussion on Business Innovation District. This is sponsored by Councilwoman Katrina Wilson.
Councilwoman Wilson? Yeah?
What?
4.2.
What is that?
Discussion on the Business Innovation District.
All right. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was there. Okay. The Business Innovative District, is someone going to read it, or is okay.
Let's talk about it. You need to.
Yeah, let's do
All
that.
right, Mr. Manager, could you explain the Business Innovation District and what it is that we're discussing now today over here?
Sure. Where's Nikisha? Just in case, okay. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, we're here today regarding this issue because in November, we brought this item, the Innovation Overlay District item to you to move forward in that area regarding changing the zoning in that area to allow for different types of uses. The council at that time voted unanimously to move that item to second reading. At second reading, we had a discussion regarding the Innovation Overlay District again. However, Councilwoman Wilson had some concerns in regards to the 16,000 square foot facility that we own, the old police building. And one of the things she wanted to ensure moving forward was that we would have an idea or ideas as to what we could place, develop, renovate on that site. I've had a chance to talk with Councilwoman Wilson and explain that the changing of the zoning in this area would allow for the actual activities that she's interested in. Those activities are from entertainment center, use for overall city operations, educational programs, business incubator, and other city services. I explained to her that currently the GU zoning would not allow those types of uses. However, if the zoning is changed at second reading today, that would allow those uses, and we could move forward with one of those uses as we discuss this with the council moving forward. But one of the things that she strongly wanted to ensure was that, and I think the council prior to this had already mentioned it, but she wanted to reemphasize it, that we would not sell the property. If we were able to do all the renovations and create an entertainment center and otherwise something else, that property would be a lease solution moving forward. So with that, I believe moving forward with the overlay innovation zone is fine, so as long as we follow or at least take into consideration that we're not going to sell the property, and also we would consider one of those uses that I just explained. And that's basically what we're here for.
Yes, one or all.
One or all,
And
that's correct.
I want to be clear for the record. The old police building, which is near our Public Works office, is an incredible building with incredible resources, the possibility to be an incredible resource for our residents. Yes, we are doing a tremendous amount of renovations in the overlay district in our business area, downtown Miami Gardens. But at the end of the day, we still find ourselves that our residents are unable to maybe afford some of the business space. And that building is a multiplicity of space. You have small offices, you have a space where you could have, just restaurants, you could have, business offices. I'm speechless in terms of what that police building offers to our residents as a go-to. As a go-to, to have space to meet would take a tremendous amount of burden off of our parks, because it would offer small spaces for people to be able to conduct business and have business meetings and have, just a whole nother level. And I want us to get outside of the box. We can't sell everything we've got. We got to own some of it so we can continue to serve the people.
So are we saying, will we be able to do some type of lease agreement with the building, or?
What my vision would be, I don't know that it would be for a lease agreement, and again, I would rely on the professionals to tell me what would be profitable and expedient for the city to do for its full use. But what I am saying is there are so many small businesses that have no place to be housed because they can't afford the rent. There are our Divine Nine organizations and small non-for-profit organizations that need meeting space. But our parks are overburdened with providing meeting space. And if we had a location where they could go, rent the spot out, meet and be about their business, that would be great. There are so many opportunities that if we were to even hire specialists that could go in there and be creative about what that space could offer our residents, a resource for the residents. And it's already an owned building.
I just want to clarify something before we chime in. So are we discussing the renovation of the building or the district?
I am discussing the renovation and non-selling of the building that is in the district. Right.
But the item that we're getting ready that we've already voted on is in reference to the district.
That's
and
correct.
that's just to rezone the district to be able to do essentially with what the councilwoman is suggesting.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, that's correct.
Wait a minute, hold up now. That ain't what I'm saying. What I'm telling you is the building, I don't want to be limited to this item. I am saying that I'm not voting on an item that does not include the fact that we do not sell that we don't sell this building, and that this building then goes in and falls. Wait, let me finish. It falls into what the manager is saying, that yes, it can be rezoned, but this building doesn't get sold ever. Even on this property, it does not get sold. This is the people's property, and it should be rezoned, renovated for the people of Miami Gardens to be able to use it to benefit and spur some of the growth in the areas that we're talking about in the strategic plan. Because right now we're land poor.
Okay, well, but see, I don't have no argument to what you're talking about. But the district and the building has nothing to do with each other. in order to be currently, and correct me if I'm wrong, with the zoning purposes. Right now, the building in that area, in that industrial side of the building, we can't do those things under that zoning. Is that correct?
Correct.
Under the current zoning
Right, so
GU, you
in order
cannot.
to be able to utilize the building in which the purpose in which you're speaking of, Councilwoman.
That is correct.
We have to rezone it.
I know.
Which is separate from the building usage. The building usage can be regulated by a resolution. This is an ordinance that we gotta change, am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I just wanna make sure I'm understanding. And then, is the building on, are we talking about are we bringing?
The area, the district.
Right, but are we bringing
We don't have an item on tonight for that. And
Okay,
this
then,
workshop is
let's
not
do
for
them
that.
all at one time then. Because see, if we can, I'm real serious about this. See, what my fear is, listen to what I'm saying. My fear is that we're gonna do one and forget about the other. And I want to be clear that these need to be tied together. That if we're gonna move this into an innovation district, which I think is a great idea, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. But what I'm saying is that we have something that belongs to the people, and that is the city of Miami Gardens' old police department, that given the fact that this innovation district will occur, it will become a hot ticket item. And I do not want this item to be sold. I want to keep it for the city.
The
And
building or the land?
The building. I want the building.
Mr.
That's
Mayor.
what I'm saying.
Yeah. Hold on.
Councilwoman.
Go ahead.
Just so to make sure, they cannot sell any piece of property
Until it come to-
without
Until it
coming
come
to the
to us.
council. And so if we change the zoning today, that will help us, and your idea is not a bad idea on how to use the building. So what you can do is, we don't have to go back and forth, you can bring an item on what you want to do with the building.
I'm bringing the item here now. What
No,
I'm
we
telling you,
can't make that
Well,
motion
then,
in this meeting.
what I'm
No, I'm
saying,
just saying.
then let's move this off and let them come
But we
together.
can't, but we have to
We
do,
gotta
one
vote
doesn't have to
on-
do with the other.
Yeah,
We
we
got to
gotta
do the
vote
zoning
for it.
first.
yeah.
Okay, listen to what I'm saying. I don't need to change the zoning on the building. I need to have an item that allows me to say in writing, do not sell the building. Do not sell the building.
They can't sell the building
Well, you know
without
what?
coming to council.
This came to us before now.
And we said no.
We
We
voted
said no.
against it.
I'm just telling you.
So let's do, so can I make a suggestion? Can I make a suggestion? Because I know that the district and the project that the councilwoman is speaking of, it's two separate things. Can we, not can we, because the item is already on the agenda, move forward with the item that's on the agenda, and to your suggestion, Councilwoman, have essentially a workshop or?
I thought you just told me you.
No,
An
that's
add-on?
That's the retreat. I don't wanna do no
Can we do an add-on?
No, we can't do an
not
add-on,
that,
because you
not
gotta be
tonight.
able to bring details, because this requires some thought through it. But I get what you're saying, and I just wanna make sure that we actually move forward, because in order to do what we're recommending, we have to change the district. You have to change the zoning of which the building is,
Okay,
which is.
but I don't want one to happen without the other. And what I'm saying to you is, if I had a conversation about my concerns with this, no, I mean, okay. No, go ahead. Okay, I expressed my concerns about this in agenda prep. And if I needed to bring a separate item to get this on the agenda, I should have been counseled to do so. And if I wasn't, I'm not with going ahead and passing something that I'm not comfortable passing, unless I have both of them and it is clear that this is what needs to be done with it.
But now, we also have to take under consideration how the building is. What's the condition of the building?
And the reason, this is why, Council, I am having this discussion, because the time is steady elapsing and the building is deteriorating, right? And so then what ends up happening is that the use of the building begins to be naught, because we're not moving effectively in it. We're moving on a timeline that moves us forward to change the district, but we're not moving in a rapid timeline to get this building used, get it before it sits and it dilapidates.
But if we change the zoning-
Councilwoman, if the zoning is done, then that will allow us to make the renovations, or if we choose
Well,
to,
you know, it's
right?
a 2-year thing. So let's say the roof is gone. It's a 2-year thing, right? So that the roof then destroys the building. So then now we tear down the building, and it doesn't become effective to even do anything with the building. So I'm saying to you that right now, we don't need to go further on anything, because tied to anything is
But I
this
think,
building being
Councilwoman,
kept for the people.
That would delay the process if we don't do anything.
No, what will delay the process is not doing anything, it's operating on both of them being done at one time.
But in order,
Can we get legal
Why
on?
would be a problem with both of them being done at one time?
Mr. Manager, you had your hands up, you wanted to say something?
Can we have legal on this, please?
No, hold on, we're gonna get the manager to speak. Mr. Manager. Mr. Manager, you wanna go ahead and speak on this issue?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Our planning and zoning director, Nikisha Smith, just suggested something to me that might work moving forward. So I'm going to have her explain something to you that may address and let us move forward.
Good evening, Council. So one of the suggestions, if you want to take it into consideration, in order to move this item forward, but also achieve what you're trying to do, Councilwoman, is that we can just do a map amendment. So right now, that property is included in the map amendment that's going to take place as part of this rezoning. So what we can do is we can remove that parcel from the innovation overlay, the map, so it would remain government property, and then as such time as you want to rezone it, you can bring the item concurrently with the lease item.
But it won't be included in the
It would not be,
zoning,
it would
right?
not be included in this current rezoning.
That's not what I'm asking for. And listen, let me tell you something. I don't want nobody to say to me nothing about delaying. Because I've been talking about this piece of property for more than 2 years. Talking about the same police department that's sitting over there empty with nothing in it that is deteriorating, and we've done nothing with it. So I don't want nobody to tell me about delaying, because I'm not delaying anything. What I'm telling you is that whatever we need to do with this building, we should go ahead and get started on it. The Innovation District is not my concern. If you want to change the Innovation District, change it. But this building here needs to be dealt with immediately so that the people can have alternate space to go to conduct their meetings, to have office space, to be able to do something that is productive, to have meeting space, to have party space. When we build this hotel over here, do you think that all of our residents are going to be able to afford that hotel? No, they won't. But we can have a center over there that they can afford. Right now, our parks are overburdened because we have so many demands on different activities that our residents want to have. But we have no place for them to go. And I am saying to you, I'm not going to back down on this one.
Mr. Mayor?
That's fine.
Mr. Mayor?
Hold on, go
So,
ahead.
Councilwoman Wilson, your concerns are valid, and I hear you loud and clear, and I think this council hears you loud and clear. But I think that we need to differentiate what you're seeking with the fact that this is a zoning item and a zoning item only.
Well, here's the deal, Councilwoman. When we deal with it as a zoning item only, tell me what happens to the property the moment the zoning changes. The moment that you make it innovation, you know what you do? You more than double the price of that building. And if there's a way that this city can sell it and get revenues from it, that's what will come before us, and that's what we will do. And then once again, the people won't have anything. They won't have anything. And we won't have the resources to be in the business of building brand new facilities. We are already site poor. That we've got to be able to hold on to some of the land and some of the property that we have so that it can service the residents who are the true taxpayers.
Point well taken, and that's what we plan to do. But remember, the city manager cannot sell anything in this city without it not coming before the seven of us.
Yes, I do know.
And that's where we...
Katrina knows it. And what I'm saying to you is that there are developers also who know it.
Point of clarification, may I?
The developer knows it. Come on now.
And we need some direction here on I think I need direction on the legal side as well as the, What Councilwoman Wilson is requesting, if I understand clearly, is an addendum that would carve out within the zoning that this area be allocated
She doesn't want
separately?
that.
Is that?
No, she
what-
just mentioned that's not what she wants. When
Mr. Mayor, she said she
Nikisha
didn't want
just
that,
said
and I
that,
don't
she
think it's a
said
good
no.
idea anyway.
Not-
You want the spot zoning. Councilwoman Wilson said no, that's not what she.
That this site be separate from, not be able to be sold, that it has to remain with the city.
That's what I said.
That's what I thought I heard, that's what she said.
Okay, well, we're talking two different languages. You can't do that on the zoning item.
Okay, so what needs to happen for her proposal? What has to happen? What needs to happen for her request to?
Brought forward.
What needs to
To be
happen?
brought forward, to be,
Bring
what
it
has,
all at
you're
one
asking
time.
what needs to happen before it to be brought before you all?
Okay, so this has to come, so I'm understanding we bring this first and then do the zoning? Is that what we're saying needs to happen?
No, the zoning is already on the agenda for tonight.
I understand that. I'm
Now,
clear on that, but
now-
I'm
now,
saying,
I
but
was counseled that this should happen the same night. Okay? That,
No, I'm serious. Because if that be the case, that helps the point that you're trying to make.
so you saying I got to tell you? No, I'm serious because I don't lie now.
I'm just.
No,
well, that's what
I don't manufacture, I don't
All right.
manufacture
Mr. Mayor.
reality.
Yes,
I think being innovative.
yes, being innovative.
May I make a suggestion, Councilwoman? If you are inclined to do the zoning, because I heard Councilwoman say you're not so concerned about the zoning as you are what happens with that building. So tonight, there's no item on the agenda to determine what happens with the building, but you all can make motions at council meeting. If you decide tonight that you're going to approve the zoning for the area, Councilwoman, you can act and make a motion to have the city manager bring back a proposal whereby that item is a co-working space, however you want to call it, a proposal to the council to consider. That motion becomes what's the policy of the council at that point, and nothing can happen other than that with that property. That way we get past tonight, your motion has been approved, I'm assuming your colleagues will approve it, and then we also have the zoning in place so that we don't, interfere with that.
It's a great idea,
Now,
Madam Attorney.
I know I'm
as
innovative.
far-
It's a great idea.
As
That's a
as
great
far as-
idea. Thank you.
Hold on. As far as Mr. Manager, are we also taking into consideration the area on the warehouse area on 47th Avenue for this type of moving forward zoning? I know it may not be on this. This is for the Sunshine Plaza, right?
Right,
The Sunshine District.
Right.
But are we considering the 47th Avenue corridor as well? The warehouses over there to try to bring some type of different type of entertainment and all that stuff over
we
there
could
in
look,
that area?
we could look in that area and bring something back for that as well.
All right,
That's not a problem.
all right,
All right.
all right. So we good?
As we say in church, all hearts and minds are clear.
Yeah,
We Gucci.
we good?
I'm good.
And if you don't like the zone,
Yeah, let her.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. But that's gonna be
You started off happy. We Councilwoman Wilson, you started off happy.
So
We want you to end the meeting
there are
happy.
no more items on
You
to the
started off
workshop.
happy. We want you to end the meeting happy.
We don't need to make motions
Nope,
to
you
adjourn.
go
I'm
ahead
gonna
and
adjourn
adjourn.
this meeting. Meeting adjourned. We ain't gotta make no motion. It's a workshop.